I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, surrounded by acres of farmland and endless country roads. It's peaceful, but isolated. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and strangers are rare. That's why, when I started running, I quickly fell into the rhythm of the empty roads, the only sound being my sneakers pounding against the asphalt. It was my escape, the freedom to go anywhere, especially when it felt like the world was closing in during the pandemic. It was during one of those long runs that I first noticed the car. At first, it was just a white van, a typical work vehicle, trailing behind me for a few miles. I didn't think much of it at the time. There are occasional farm trucks and delivery vehicles around here, so I chalked it up to coincidence. But when I turned down a side street near the edge of town, I noticed the van had followed me. I picked up the pace, trying to shake it, but the van kept a steady distance, its engine humming behind me like a shadow that never quite disappeared. Eventually, I rounded another corner and glanced back, only to see the van had pulled into a nearby driveway. I breathed a sigh of relief, convinced that my paranoia was getting the best of me. That night, I told my older sister about it, but she brushed it off. "Maybe it was just a delivery guy," she said. "You're being dramatic." Days went by without incident. I continued running my usual routes, but something didn't sit right. The roads felt emptier, the shadows seemed darker, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. About a week later, I was running near the outskirts of town when I noticed the van again. This time, it was parked by the edge of the woods, far from any other houses. My heart raced as I jogged past it, but the feeling of being followed lingered in the air. It was almost as if the van was waiting for something or someone. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. After all, it could just be coincidence, right? But then, the following days only made things worse. The van was always around, sometimes in driveways, sometimes parked at random spots along the roads, and occasionally it was just parked with the engine running, as if waiting for me to come closer. It wasn't just the van anymore. I started noticing other cars too, black sedans, trucks, all driving slowly near where I was running, always staying a little too close for comfort. Then came the day that changed everything. I was running one afternoon, heading back toward home, when I saw it again. The van. This time, it was parked right at the edge of the woods, and I had no choice but to run past it. As I approached, I could see that the window was down, and a man was sitting inside. He had short, dark hair and a weathered face. He gave me a nod as I passed, his eyes following me a little too closely. I felt a chill run through me, but I kept going. I turned down a side street and kept an eye on the van in my peripheral vision. To my surprise, it started up and followed me. I felt my heart thud in my chest. I tried to act casual, like I wasn't panicking, but the car just kept following, moving at the same pace I was running. I increased my speed, hoping to shake it, but no matter how fast I went, the van stayed a few feet behind, matching my stride. I turned a corner, desperately hoping it would turn away, but it followed. That's when I realized this wasn't just some coincidence. This was something more. I could feel the air grow heavier, the weight of the van's presence pressing in on me. I decided to make a break for it, turning into a small, isolated neighborhood that looped back toward my street. My legs were burning, my breath coming out in ragged gasps as I tried to escape, but I could still hear the engine of the van behind me. I ducked into a narrow alleyway, hoping to lose it in the maze of homes and fences. But as I emerged, I saw the van parked at the end of the street. It had followed me. My instincts screamed at me to keep running, but I was trapped. At that moment, a figure stepped out from the van. A tall man, wearing a baseball cap and dark sunglasses, walked toward me slowly. He didn't say anything at first, just watched me with a gaze that made my skin crawl. I took a step back, my body on high alert. "Hey!" the man called, his voice smooth but laced with something unsettling. I just wanted to talk. "Can I offer you a ride?" I shook my head, my heart racing. "No, I'm good," I muttered, my legs trembling beneath me. The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. There was something off about it. Without another word, he began walking toward me, and I turned to run, every instinct telling me to get away. But as I did, I heard him call out, "Don't run!" "It's not worth it." I didn't stop. I ran faster than I ever had before, darting around the corner and into the street where I lived. My breath was coming in quick bursts, and I was so out of breath I could barely hear the sound of my own feet hitting the pavement. When I reached my driveway, I stopped to look back, but there was no sign of the van. No sound, no sign of anyone following me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had just barely missed happening. That I had been seconds away from something much worse. I didn't run the same way after that. Every time I stepped outside, I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched. My parents didn't take it seriously at first, but eventually, they agreed that I should start running with a friend. I haven't seen the van or the man since, but the feeling of being watched hasn't gone away. Every time I hear the hum of an engine or catch a glimpse of a car slowing down as it passes by, my stomach churns. I can't help but wonder if they'll come back, if they'll try again. I just hope I'm ready if they do. I've been a runner since high school. There's something freeing about it. Just you, the road, and the rhythmic pounding of your feet against the pavement. I usually run in the evening, right before it gets dark. It started as a habit from my track days, but now it's more of a routine, a way to clear my head after long work days. But after what happened last week, I don't think I'll ever run alone again. I live on the outskirts of town, where the neighborhoods give way to open fields and wooded trails. There's a back road I like to run that loops through an old rural area. Just farmland, a few abandoned houses, and a stretch of forest. It's quiet, peaceful. I've never had a reason to feel unsafe there. Last Thursday, I laced up my shoes, put in my earbuds, and started my usual route. It was early evening, the sky tinged with orange and pink. I planned to do 5 miles, running past the old mill at the edge of the woods before circling back home. Everything felt normal at first, just me, the cool autumn air, and the rhythmic beat of my music. About 2 miles in, as I passed an old barn, something shifted. I couldn't hear anything off because of my music, but I felt it. A presence. Like I wasn't alone. I turned my head slightly, catching movement from the corner of my eye. A figure standing near the tree line, just at the edge of the forest. I slowed down, pulling out one earbud. The figure wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. My first thought was that it was a farmer or maybe a hiker. But something about the way they stood, so still, so rigid, made my skin prickle. I forced myself to look away and kept running, but now my senses were on high alert. I listened for footsteps, breathing, anything, but all I heard was the wind through the trees and my own pulse pounding in my ears. A quarter mile later, I stole another glance back. The figure was closer, not running, not walking, just closer. A cold wave of fear spread through my chest. I picked up my pace, my heartbeat hammering harder. I wasn't far from the mill now. Once I reached it, I could cut through the clearing and be back in familiar territory. But then I heard it. A laugh. Not loud, not natural. A slow, broken chuckle, like someone struggling to remember how to make the sound. I turned my head fully now, my breath catching in my throat. The figure was on the road behind me, maybe 20 feet away, close enough for me to see details. It was a man, but his posture was wrong, his limbs too long, his shoulders unnaturally hunched. He wore a dirty hoodie with the hood up, shadows obscuring his face. But it was his mouth that froze me in place. It stretched too wide, his lips curled into something that was almost a grin, but not quite. His eyes, deep within the shadows of his hood, gleamed as they locked onto mine. Then he took a step forward. That was all I needed. I bolted. Adrenaline flooded my system as I pushed myself harder than I ever had. The road blurred beneath me, my muscles screaming as I sprinted towards the mill. My only thought was getting to the clearing, getting out of here. The laughter followed. Closer now. I risked a glance over my shoulder and immediately regretted it. He was running, but it wasn't normal running. His movements were jerky, unnatural, his arms flailing too much, his legs moving in odd, almost skipping strides, like a puppet with its strings yanked too hard. And he was fast. I reached the old mill and veered right, aiming for the shortcut through the clearing. The woods loomed ahead, dark and endless, but I had no choice. I dove into the trees, branches whipping against my arms as I forced my way through. The path was barely visible in the dim light, but I knew it well enough to navigate by instinct. My only focus was running, running, running. Then the laughter stopped. The sudden silence was somehow worse. I kept moving, my breath ragged, my body screaming for rest, but I didn't dare stop. My house was less than a mile away now. If I could just... A branch snapped to my right. I jerked my head in the direction of the sound and nearly collapsed. He was there, not running anymore, not grinning, just watching. He had cut ahead of me. I don't remember making a decision. My body just reacted. I spun around, sprinting back toward the road. My vision tunneled, every nerve in my body screaming with terror. The road. I just needed to get back to the road. Then, I tripped. I hit the ground hard, my knee scraping against the dirt. Pain shot through my leg, but I barely noticed because suddenly the air felt wrong. Heavy, suffocating, like someone was standing right behind me. I didn't want to look. I knew I shouldn't look, but I couldn't stop myself. I turned my head slowly, my breath caught in my throat. He was there, inches away. The hood had fallen back slightly, revealing more of his face. His skin was pale, almost gray. His mouth still held that not-quite smile, but his eyes were empty, completely black. I screamed and scrambled backward, kicking wildly. My foot connected with something solid, his shin, maybe, and in that split second, I ran. I don't know how I made it back. I don't remember the last half mile. All I know is that one moment I was in those cursed woods, and the next I was bursting through my front door, slamming it shut, my whole body shaking uncontrollably. I locked every door, every window, sat in the corner of my living room, gripping a kitchen knife, heart hammering in my chest. Hours passed before I could even move again. I never saw him again, but every time I pass the edge of the woods, I feel it, that same watching presence. And sometimes, when I run alone, I swear I hear it again. That broken, unnatural laughter, coming from the trees. Jay and I had a ritual. Night runs. It wasn't just about staying in shape. There was something about running through the empty streets. The world quiet except for the rhythm of our footsteps. It felt freeing, like we had the whole world to ourselves. We always ran the same route, through our neighborhood and down the well-lit main road. But one night, Jay had a new idea. "Let's take the old back road behind the warehouses," he suggested. "It loops around and connects to the bridge. More distance, better workout." I hesitated. That road was barely used anymore, lined with abandoned buildings and overgrown lots. It was darker, quieter, more isolated, but Jay was already jogging ahead, and I didn't want to seem like a coward. At first, it felt like any other run. The pavement under our feet, our breathing steady, the occasional flicker of a street lamp above. The air was cool, and for the first mile, everything was fine. Then, I started to feel it, that strange pressure, like someone was watching us. I glanced around. The empty windows of the warehouses loomed over us like hollow eyes. There was no one there. But the feeling wouldn't go away. A few minutes later, I heard something behind us. A footstep. I turned my head quickly. Nothing. Jay kept running, unfazed. I shook it off, telling myself it was just my imagination. Then, a little further down the road, I heard it again. Crunch. Like a shoe on gravel. I looked back again, but there was still nothing. Just darkness and the dim glow of a distant street lamp. "You okay?" Jay asked, noticing me lagging behind. "Yeah," I lied, but I wasn't okay. Because now, I wasn't just hearing it. I could feel it. Something, someone, was running behind us. I picked up the pace. Jay followed, sensing my urgency. We didn't speak, but we both knew something was wrong. The road curved toward the bridge, an old wooden structure that stretched over a dried-up creek. That's when I saw him. A figure, moving in the trees beside us, keeping pace. I couldn't see his face, only his long, thin body, and the way he glided through the trees too smoothly, like he wasn't running, but floating. Jay cursed under his breath. "Run!" We took off, sprinting for the bridge. My heart pounded in my ears, my legs burning as I pushed myself forward. But no matter how fast we ran, the figure in the trees kept up. Then, the worst part. He laughed. A horrible, rasping, broken laugh, like something trying to mimic human sound but getting it all wrong. Then, a voice. Not fast enough. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just ran. We hit the bridge at full speed. The old wooden planks groaned under our weight. I could see the neighborhood lights ahead. Safety. We were almost there. But as we reached the middle of the bridge, Jay grabbed my arm and forced me to stop. "Look!" I turned my head, breathless. The figure was standing at the start of the bridge. perfectly still, head tilted, watching. He wasn't chasing us anymore. He didn't need to. Jay and I didn't wait to find out what would happen next. We sprinted the rest of the way home, not stopping until we were inside, doors locked, curtains drawn. We never ran at night again. And sometimes, when I pass that bridge during the day, I swear I see footprints in the dirt, leading from the trees, and a single word scratched into the wooden railing. Slower next time.